Hi. Can you hear me now? Okay, thanks. Today we are here to talk about platform teams, what the main challenges are, and a few tips and tricks on how to overcome them. So if you want to follow the slides, you can download slido.com, the application, and with the QR code, you can follow the slide interactively. If you want to reach out to either me or Marisa, you have our emails there and some web address where you can read some more from us. So about us, I'm Marco. I'm Italian born, but I'm based in Malaga for the last 7 years. I'm a software developer, and I slowly transitioned toward platforms. I'm a lead developer at ThoughtWorks. I've been there for about 2.5 years, enjoying it, going from project to project and trying to bring my grain of salt in platform teams. And then we have Marisa.
So I'm Marisa. Can you hear me well? Okay. So I'm Marisa, and I'm always switching between a management role, like a technical product manager, technical project manager, and so on, and more technical roles like DevOps, software architect, or developer. I'm originally from Sevilla, from the south of Spain. I love to move and do exercises. I have 2 dogs, and now I'm a lead project manager at ThoughtWorks, but I mean, the role I play is a technical product manager, and this is how we know each other. So he was the lead infrastructure consultant, and I was the technical project manager for a developer experience team and suite of products.
Thanks.
So what we are going to see in this talk is we are going to start by, enumerating some of the challenges that are unique to platform teams, especially if we compare them to product teams, so the web or mobile app products. Then we are going to go through some tips and tricks that we have compiled in our experience working in platform team, developing platform products. And then we are going to zoom in into 2 topics. So we are going, Marco is going to present, key learnings from good development practices and good practices that you can apply to the platform space, and I will be focusing more on product thinking and developer experience.
So when we start talking about the challenges that a platform team can experience, we have 4 main areas. One is about developer experience, or how you can simplify the life of your developers. Then we have the business aspects, the technology side of it, and then some aspects that are specifically related to platform teams and do not apply to other teams. When we talk about developer experience, we can mention centricity. So if the product that is being developed has the user in mind, if every functionality that is being added is added on behalf of the user, or if there are some other stakeholders that are not the users, and then the time we are spending is not focused on the user. So it's about determining what we want to focus first. Then in terms of developer experience, having some consistent experience across different platforms is also very helpful for developers, so they don't need to adjust and pay for the context switching time when they go from one application to the next. When we talk about easiness of use, there are 2 different concepts. One is simplicity, and it's more related to a new product that is expected to be easy to use, but then as features are added, we steer more toward usability. So this is also a concept from the Norman book, the Design Everyday thing. If you have to choose between simplicity and usability, you always favor usability because users want a rich feature set. They don't want something simple that does one thing. So this is a concept to bear in mind. When we have about developer experience, developers are not historically known as the best in giving feedback. They like to get feedback from users, but when something doesn't work, they say, I'll just use something else. So it's important to gather that feedback and incorporate it into our development lifecycle, and then do it better next time. About business, platform teams do not have clear visibility over the roadmaps or the strategy of the company. They are told by development teams, so they get the information secondhand, and it's not always correct. There's also a common distrust of platform teams, that they are not effective, that they don't work on the right thing. So this doesn't really help a platform team to be effective. Then a lot of time people might think that platform teams operate on a responsive way rather than having their own roadmap, improving things for the developers. They are always there whenever you need them, whatever you're doing. Just call them, they'll be there at night if it needs to be. That shouldn't be the case. When it comes to technology, platform teams have to deal with the choices that development teams have made. So if you have in the same company Java, Kotlin, Golang, you name it, then things don't work and you have the platform team to help, right? Not always the case. The landscape is changing at a faster pace than the development landscape. So platform teams are always playing catch up. Developers want to use newer things, but the support infrastructure needs to be there. And especially when there are multiple technologies at play, it's difficult for platform teams to keep up. Maturity, different platform teams have a different level of maturity, of course. So how much time an engineer has been a platform engineer compared to a software engineer or a DevOps or a delivery. So that level of experience affects greatly how much a platform team can deliver. The vendor lock-in is something to bear in mind. So if you choose, we always know about the example about clouds. So if you choose AWS, you have to use AWS for life, but it's not the only technology. So essentially, it can happen that platform teams are forced to make a decision, and then the entire company is bound by that decision forever, essentially. Specifically for platform teams, there's a high cognitive load on them because they need to understand what every other development team is doing and how to support them. So there's the feature side. I see some people laughing. So that's the expectation, at least. Then about the approach, so it can be reactive or proactive. The more proactive it is, the more effective the platform team will be. If you are only putting out fire, of course you cannot work on your roadmap, you cannot make things better, and it's about striking the balance. So you cannot let the entire company burn, but you also want to build a better file system. Then there's additional workload that come up. Let's say they're not specific to a team, so there's always the bucket, the common bucket is the platform team. So if there's a new vendor coming in and needs support, then it's platform team, of course, because they're there for that, right? And back to the concept we discussed briefly, there's a big disconnection between what platform teams are doing and what the product teams are trying to do. So this vision is not usually shared with them, and they only hear about it from developers that say, I need this infrastructure provision, I need this pipeline in place, and then it's too late to say, you're doing it wrong, you should have factored this in. It just comes too late in the game.
Yeah. So this talk is not only about complaining, it's also about being proactively looking for ways to better our daily work and so on. So if we go back to the, what were the challenges, we try to map them to some tips and tricks so that we can, next slide, please. So regarding the developer experience, you can apply product management technique, and you can apply user experience techniques also to the platform space. So you can, for instance, get to know and research who are your users. Who should be the users of the platform? So maybe not the entire organization or not the entire developer community has to use your platform products because they don't, it doesn't bring any value for them and it's only workload for you. So something that is not valuable, just don't do it. You should also try to design an experience. So the overall won't only be how good or how good technically is your product. It's also going to be the experience that you build around it. So it's going to be the onboarding experience, the support experience, the release and upgrade, the building that sense of a community that supports and helps the developers to get to know the platform products and have the best experience. It's also like when we look at this inconsistent experience across the platform. So, have you seen ever a product that was the result of merging two companies or merging two products, and you have that disconnection? So this is a bit like what we experience when we play with Kubernetes or when we run or workloads in Kubernetes, no? Like you have Grafana for the metrics, then you have Prometheus for this, and then you have the Kubernetes UI to manage this. So maybe having a good developer portal and maybe integrating identity and access management, integrating all the different parts in one single place, you are already helping a lot your developer community. When we think about platform products, I mean, we are building something on the top of something that already exists. So we want to add a good level of abstraction so that it's valuable to developer, but we have to add value because otherwise they could just use, raw Azure, raw Kubernetes, or whatever product is out there. So we have to think what is the right level of abstraction or how we help them to, hide the underlying complexity. How we are going to do if we are doing, how we are going to know if we are doing it well or not on the developer experience space. So we can run surveys, and one very effective way to understand the value that you are delivering is to, for your product teams to measure their 4 key metrics, their DORA metrics, and for you to see how any change or any improvement in the platform product has helped to reduce lead time, increase resiliency, and all this. And then, of course, how you are reducing and improving the operation and support of your platform. If we look at the business, you have to understand the organization that you are living in. And in fact, I will say that there are 2 good components. How you abstract the underlying technology complexity, and also how you help your developers to navigate the organizational complexity, in the sense that the different organizations have different requirements. Maybe they are working in a very heavily regulated environment, and if you build that by default in your platform solution, you are really helping your developer even more if you build something on the top of Terraform or on the top of any cloud component or product. If you have to know at which stage your organization is, and you have to align your platform roadmap to that. So if your company is expanding globally, then your platform roadmap should reflect that. If your company is downsizing or is trying to build the foundation, so it's taking some time to do things right or so, maybe it's a good time for you. It's always a good time, but it's the best time for you to invest on implementing governance, site reliability engineering principle, FinOps, and even a carbon footprint in your platform teams. How are you going to know if you are doing well or not in this space? So if you look at the objectives of your company, and you can link that and see the impact of the changes in your platform, how they are contributing to that. Regarding the technology, we are looking not only at a single product, we are looking at many technology, many products from different vendors or so. So if you manage to create a living ecosystem, and that all the components, all the parts integrate together, and this is visible and tangible to your organization and platform team, this is already a huge achievement. As you manage different underlying products, you also have to manage their life cycle. So there are some of these products that will have to come in or out of your portfolio. There are different products that you might have to decommission or discard, and you have to manage all this. So it's much more management than just upgrading to the latest Java version. Here you have to be smart where to use a vendor solution will help you, or will actually be the little stone in the way in a few years now. So this is a technology. Then regarding the platform team, Marco will be explaining how you can apply software development best practices in the platform space, but it's also so that your platform team don't feel that disconnection and that isolation from the entire organization, how you build the community, how you tie your roadmap, your activities to those of your organization, and also the fact that you have to invest in your platform team. So you have to invest for your platform teams to have a strong pipelines, the right tooling, so that they don't spend time logging into a server to look at the logs and so on. So it's also invest in your platform team so that they can be enabled to do the best job they can.
in a little bit. Now we will zoom in a little bit on the development practices. So platform teams do not usually operate within the Agile framework, or they don't plan on working with iterations. So a good way to start is to understand who your client is. Most often, the client is the development teams. That doesn't need to be always the case, but that's what usually happens. So it's about understanding what their needs are, what they want. Sometimes even foresee what they'll expect from you. And then when you know what they want, it's about working toward an MVP. So platform teams expect, in general, to be able to build everything at once, and that you cannot deliver anything until everything is ready, because it wouldn't make sense, right? You need to have spent 10 years to be able to start seeing some benefit. That shouldn't be the case. There are ways to do it. You just need to understand what the developers really need now and what they will need in 6 months. There's going to be some need for manual operation at times. Not everything needs to be perfect from day one, but it's about getting there. It's about understanding what should be prioritized. And in order to do that, you need to understand how to measure success. So the feedback that development teams or your client can give you is what can really tell you if you're doing things right. So there are metrics that can measure how the development teams are doing. We talk about DORA metrics, for instance. That's one side of it, but it's also developer satisfaction. So whenever they ask for a new feature, they can evaluate the team on how long it took, how easy it is to use, how the documentation is, and if the feedback is not good, we don't need to take it personally, but we can iterate again and do it better for the next iteration. Talking about iterations, platform teams, or at least the platform teams I've seen, do not follow the same software development lifecycle principle that development teams follow. So starting from the pipelines, many platform teams are tasked to provide pipeline for other teams, but for their work, they don't work with pipelines. So that's, for instance, one starting point, but also testing. Testing infrastructure code is not easy. I don't think anybody will say it's easy, but it's not impossible. So we can have the same level of testing that we have with the regular code. We can have unit tests, we can have integration testing, we can have end-to-end tests, and we even follow the same pyramid of tests, where we have a strong foundation of unit tests that are super quick, can give us immediate feedback even on the laptop, and then as we progress, we get longer tests that validate end-to-end scenarios, and of course you don't want to have a lot of them, but they're still useful. Feature toggles. This would allow us to deploy to production an environment with live customers, company customers, from day one. So essentially what this allows us to do is to say, for this percentage of user or for this category of user, the new feature is on, for all the rest it's off. So you could have, for instance, the test role, depending on how you configure it, but the testers can see the new feature, everybody else don't. And when you have that in place, you can deploy without breaking anything. This is a common methodology in software development and can be done in platform teams as well. When you provide abstractions to help the development teams, you need to make sure that you are actually removing complexity. So there's a concept in software development called leaky abstraction. So when you try to elevate something to a higher level of abstraction, it's important to not leak details from the underlying layer, because otherwise you add complexity. You are trying to alleviate complexity and issues for developers, but you are actually making it worse. And quick point, if you think that your abstraction layer main goal is to enforce company standards like naming convention and so on, you are not being an abstraction layer. You are doing policies. But there are other tools for that. You don't need to go through an abstraction library. Definition of done. Software teams define the definition of done in the first week, sometimes mostly in the first day. So when a story is done, and you don't need to rework it anymore. For platform teams, it's much harder, and it's not a priority. But we need to understand when we're done with something, because we deliver a feature, we let development teams use it, but then there's a constant feedback. Please help me, I don't understand this, the documentation is not good, I get stuck. So the feature is not done until you can work on something else. And this should be agreed upon from the beginning. A concept from team topology is the platform team, which is how a platform should operate. So it should be an independent team that doesn't get involved with the day-to-day operation of development teams. There's an exception to this. It's sort of a special exception where the platform team acts as an enabler. So if you have a development team that has never done deployment before, has never used Kubernetes before, and now we do need to use Kubernetes, there's an exception that can be made for the platform team to work sort of embedded or facilitating the development team to get used to the technology. But the idea is to set a time boundary, 2 months, 6 months, and after that, the development team is on their own. This might as well imply recruiting people with a special skill set in the development team, but the platform team cannot be looking for the deployment for all the teams forever. That's never going to scale. The platform team should rather be spending time building blocks so that development team have an easier life when they try to operate independently. A key concept of domain-driven design helps development teams be independent. So it's a sort of a microservice approach where each team is only responsible for a single domain, and they can deploy without having to wait for other teams. They notify when there's a change, but they are independent. And in order to allow that, they also need to own their own infrastructure. So when we talk about Kubernetes cluster, potentially databases and so on, they need to own it, they need to maintain it, and platform teams should not be involved with this. The only exception being platform components that are shared by nature. If you think of a message broker, it's usually used for communication across teams, and in that case, there cannot be a responsibility of a development team, because otherwise they'll end up breaking for other teams, and we don't want that. So this is the single exception where platform team should own a piece of infrastructure.
So now we are going to zoom into product management and user experience or developer experience. So for this, so when we think about product management, or we hear a lot about platform as a product. I mean, to me at least, it's not really a product. So it's the service you build on the top, and it's also this concept of portfolio or ecosystem, because you are not dealing only with one single product or one single solution. You are really dealing with many, many solutions, maybe from different vendors that they are not designed by nature to work together. So you have to take this into account also when you plan, when you design your roadmap, when you design your product. When you are building this, the value you can bring is to build this abstraction on the top of the existing product. So here, as Marco was emphasizing, it has to be like a useful abstraction, because otherwise, the underlying product is supported, is documented, so you might as well use it raw. One thing that Marco was mentioning is not really an abstraction, but is, and you can do this by policies, request limit, and many other things. So if you understand your organization, if you understand the challenge or the non-functional requirement that might come with your organization, you can really help product teams to be quick and to be successful when launching products by implementing all these as default behaviors in your platform product. There is this concept of service portfolio management, where you can see that the different elements in your portfolio might have a different maturity. You can also see that you have to follow their life cycle, and you have to manage that life cycle. So when something comes in, when something comes out, when something stops to be supported and such, and it has to be aligned, of course, to the need of your organization and the need of your developer team. When you think about product management or service portfolio management, you have to understand what is the value proposition. And the value proposition and we work with many platform teams, really depends on the organization and really depends on the needs of the developers in that organization. So you might have, developers that are really interested in, exploring platform and they really want to, be part of that. Or you might have developers that maybe because they are overloaded and overworked, they don't want to care about platform. So you have to understand this and you have to state what is your value proposition. And that value proposition is really tailored to your organization and to your developer community. There is this concept of enterprise foundation that is to provide this safety net. So like the framework where your developers can operate, can build their product in a safely and compliant manner. And this is, again, a default behavior that you can implement in your platform product. There is a concept of enterprise grade. So when you are evaluating different products and you say like, okay, so this is an enterprise grade product, is when you move from being like a local niche solution that was developed by someone in their spare time to something that can really be adopted, organization-wide, that is supported, documented, that has a clear view, a clear strategy. Then there is the concept of managing the ecosystem. So again, when you are moving pieces, so to bring a new product, to discard a new product also, you have to always see how this new piece or this piece that you are moving is going to make sense in the ecosystem. So how it's going to integrate, how it's going to communicate also. And this might tailor, or it might force you to make choices that, maybe you see product A that, is cool and is fancy and, and you see product B that maybe is not so cool, but, login is easy to integrate, there have good SLAs, so maybe you go for product B if it's not that exciting. Again, the concept of service portfolio management, so to really manage the life cycle of the different products that make your platform product, and then applying product metrics. So you should calculate like regular product managers do for their app or mobile product. What are the adoption metrics? What is the cost of running my product for a given user segment? And all these metrics are important. This is about applying user experience techniques to the platform space. So one thing that we do typically for like regular web or app products is to define our users and user persona. So what are, who are they? Are they new into the organization? Are they tech savvy, not tech savvy? Do they have appetite for changes, appetite for risk? What do they do in their spare time and things like this? What value means to them? So like how can we deliver something that actually they want to use and they're happy to use and they see that it's useful? What are the expectations? So, and this, like, I've been in an organization where the developer community had really like low expectation, like, it doesn't break, it's good. And then I have been, like we have been in other organizations, like, it has to be up here. So yeah, so this is something that you have to assess as well, and you have to assess when you, define this persona, and then you have to check at least once a year. What is the journey and what is their experience? So for this, we design these different personas. In your organization, you will likely have multiple personas, if nothing else, for how many years they have, what is their background, and things like this. So you define this persona, and with this persona, you do like the user segmentation. As platform team, we try to get as many users as possible. We try to cover all their needs also, but this is just not practical or effective. So we really have to understand what is our target users. So in our target users, their needs, and we have to tailor our product portfolio or product ecosystem to that. Something that we can do that is like a very easy exercise is this exercise coming from Lean, that is the value stream map. So we are going to sit down with our users, our developers, and we are going to, say like, okay, so you get a request from business or you get a request from your end user. What is that path to production? And in that path to production, what are your pain points? Are all these steps necessary? Which steps bring value? Which steps are a total waste? So applying these techniques, we can understand how, for instance, we have to design our CI/CD pipelines so that they make sense and they make the developers much more efficient. We also have to do a lot of stakeholder and user management. So we have to create the forums for us to take care of our users. So listen to their feedback, to help them with their question, to for them to voice their concerns and so on. And we have to see our success through their lenses. So our success is not we have the coolest platform ever. It's like thanks to our platform efforts, like a organization, I don't know, won this market or could expand to this region, or suddenly they acquire, I don't know how many more end users just because we reduce the lead time, we improve the resiliency and all this. So we have to see our success, not how cool, how techy we are, but the value that we are bringing to them. And some question, and this is so why Paula should upgrade to the latest version. We were preparing a roadmap for a client on the developer experience space. And all the things that were coming into that roadmap, they were like really related to, I want to explore this new technology, or we have a lot of technical debt, and you should invest on technical debt that we want to reduce and so on. So the question will be like, if Paula is using your platform product, and you are going to have a new release that is going to break your product. So Paula will have to do something on her side. Why Paula should upgrade to that? Like, what is the value? Why should she stop working on her own roadmap and save some time to work on upgrading to the platform? So these are the questions we should be asking when deciding which features come in, come out, and how we prioritize them.
Okay, we are reaching the end of the presentation. So as a quick summary, we talk about how platform teams should operate to avoid the common pitfalls very succinctly. So treat your product as a real product, operate as a real platform team, treat code as a first-class citizen, and understand your client. And if your client is always asking for putting out fires, learning to say no might be in their best interest sometimes.
Hello, congratulations for the slides, so awesome. I would like to ask about, is it okay for a platform team to search user outside of the engineering team?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. Is it okay for a platform team to have a user outside the engineering team? For example, is a kind of the business needs.
I mean, we had a conflict. This is like something that we actually struggle a bit. So we used to work for a platform team, and this platform team was not really acting as a platform team, so they were not really working on platform product. They were working on developing business solutions, because in the entire organization, they were the ones who had that knowledge. And then, like for me, it's like conflicting because you are helping your organization, which as a project manager, I really love, but then you are not working on your roadmap. So for this, I think it's okay, as long as it is like time boxed, in that sense that when you do these activities, you also have to plan extra time on how you are going to do the handover to another team that is going to be the one running that solution, so that this solution that you build, like just integrating cloud solutions, doesn't stay with your team and goes to a different team. So I would say it's like, you have to compromise, and yeah. Over a coffee, we can discuss about our experience, but it's something that you can do it, but then you have to hand it over. And you have to invest on, maybe doing extra work so that a different team can be able to evolve it and so on.
Hello. You mentioned in challenges that receiving feedback from developers is challenging, and then on next slide you suggested to gather surveys from them. And I see at least two problems here. One problem is that participation can be rather low, and developers can ignore such surveys. And second one is cultural difference in teams. So some people are very optimistic and they can put 5 stars on all your answers. How you deal with such cases?
You go.
Yeah, you can go.
Okay, so the feedback results should be anonymous first and foremost, so people are more compelled of answering if they're not held liable for their answer. Then about the 5 stars, there's definitely a risk for it. There's also the opposite risk of like 1 stars, that if people don't like something a little bit, they say, okay, 1 star. It's culture, absolutely. How you can help it is with free text fields. So it's not just about saying it's 3, 4, 5 stars. It's also about like why, if it's a 3, it's not a 5. So you can make, for instance, that field compulsory if the answer is not high, or if it's very low, you can require why. So that way you elicit more feedback. And then there's also like trying to use the formal structure power. So if you know that you're asking feedback to a team of 8 and you get 1 response, maybe reaching out to their manager and saying, listen, I know your people is busy, but we really need this if you want us to become better. Can you do a little bit of a nudge? Come again? That would be the last resort, I hope.
And actually, we are doing like we have a workshop design that is a very cool exercise for developer teams to voice their concern. So it starts by saying like, okay, give your honest review, and then rate different categories, provide feedback, and then it will be like, okay, so now imagine that you give a 5-star review, and then they have to think about these features that they really want, because the honest review is always about the most pressing pain point or so, but when you say like, okay, you gave us a 5, tell us why you gave us a 5, and then you make them think about, what are the cool things that you could bring to the platform.
Hey, one question. What would you say is the first baby step towards a platform engineering team for a company that doesn't have one? What should be that first step that really triggers the change in mentality?
Great question. So when you start with the idea of having a platform team, you need to understand where your company currently is. So if you have a team, or if you have 2 people that always do the deployment and nobody else touch any infrastructure code, with the current people and the current expertise, it's not going to work. So you need to train, you need to make sure that that knowledge is shared and that everybody can do that level of work to a varying degree, but that they understand what the implications are. And then maybe you need to recruit people from outside that have experience in platform team. It's very difficult if you have people that have been working a different way and then you say, now you're the platform team, they will always default back to the old way. So you need somebody who has built a platform team and they can a little bit steer the boat and say, we are not doing it right. So that would be my first action point.
So a small follow-up question. How big should a company be, more or less, to start thinking about the platform team?
It depends on what the company does. Because if you have very different services, very different products, it's difficult to find common things to do. At least it's more difficult to find them. If the teams are more aligned and they work all toward building a single product, then even with 2 or 3 teams, it might make sense to have a platform teams. And then I really recommend the team topologies book, because platform team is always used as an umbrella word for saying we have people not doing development, they do everything else. But there should be platform teams within the platform team that specialize on single topics like database management, pipelines management, security, and so on. They can all go into the platform team, but they are different teams. So the more the organization grows, the more specialized each team should become. So I don't have a clear-cut answer, but yeah.